Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Vamily Show, the very awesome family show, season 2, episode 7. And today with me, I have Tanya, who is a psychic and clairvoyant. And I this is the first time I haven't had a lot of research material to go off of to talk to somebody. But since you're a psychic, we should be able to have a good conversation. Maybe you can ask me questions or whatever too. Who knows? Know if we
Sure.
can have a good time. And your book is uh, Becoming a Clairvoyant. So I kind of read the I don't know if it's the forward that you wrote
hmm
or review or something, but how did you discover that you had those abilities?
It's interesting because when things happen to you, you mark it off as a
Mm-hmm.
coincidence or lucky. Growing up, I always had voices in my head. I thought that was normal for a child. You have an imagination, you have voices in your head. But I didn't have the voices that were playful in terms of tea parties or that thing. It was more like a parental voice telling me, don't do that, stop, look, don't cross the street. It was
Right.
very, you know, protective. And growing up this way, I just assumed that, everything's fine. I had and still have dreams that come true. I know things I couldn't possibly know. I was the friend who would email you and go, why am I getting wedding vibes from you? And my friends and family just kind of chalked
Mm-hmm.
this up as Tanya being weird. You know how she is. So they never like thought that's
Right.
odd. They were like, oh yeah, I'm just thinking where am I going with this relationship with Steve? Like we're not gonna get married. Even though it was odd for me out of the blue to call them or email them, they just kind of justified it as
Mm-hmm.
being normal. And it wasn't until
Right.
I did an event in New York City where I inadvertently did a reading on a woman, a stranger, to the point that I'm like, I couldn't possibly know these things. Like, how could I know this? I
Right.
just met her. That forced me to explore it. So since I belong to so many business
Mm-hmm.
groups, I just shared with them, and they were open in terms of spirituality because some people were like, that's weird. When I shared with them what was happening, I said, look, I need your help. Who wants a free reading? I just want to explore
Mm-hmm.
this like a muscle. Like, how am I getting the information? How is it coming to me? And for a month, that's what I did. I connected with people all around the world, and thank you, internet. I was able to connect with them just using my computer
Right.
and have lovely conversations with people I may have known through Facebook as a friend, but really didn't know. And this, I kind of tapped in and got information I couldn't possibly know. And that made me embrace
Yeah.
it.
It's kind of incredible. Like there's one time, and uh, the only word for it is a common term anyway. The deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
I had it one time that I know for sure. I mean, I might have had others, but one time I know for sure because it was so blatant. Is
Mm-hmm.
I just had a dream about going to school,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what the teacher was going to ask, and I knew who he was going to pick, whose hand was going to be raised, and I knew he was going to
Mm-hmm.
get the answer wrong. And once that started playing out, I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So is that kind of what it's like on your end? But it happens
That's
all the time.
exactly what it's like. As a matter of fact, I had, before I realized I had a gift, I always have dreams that come true. I still do. And it has a different feeling to it. I'm sure your dream had a different feeling as opposed to one of those dreams about an elephant, just random dreams. And
Right.
my dreams are so vivid that I end up talking about it. And I know how long it takes for it to come to fruition because I've been talking about it for days. you know? And there was one
Mm.
dream, I was freelancing, and in the corporate office, I walked by the VP's office. And the minute I got to a certain point, he looked up and said, hey, Tanya, could you come in for a minute? And I walked into his office, and all of a sudden he said this, I said this. And next thing you know, he's talking to me about extending my freelance position and working in a different division that had another opportunity. And I thought nothing of that because it just seemed like a very weird dream. And then within
Right.
a week, I'm walking the hallway. I get to a certain point and I hear, hey, Tanya, could you come in for a minute? And I'm literally standing there and he's talking to me, and it's literally like I had an outer body experience. So I'm like, wait, he said that. It was in that dream. Oh, okay. Or another time, same thing. I'm working in corporate before I started working on my own. And in the dream, I heard crying and fired. And I didn't get like, that was the only two things I got. And I remembered like I was afraid to say anything because I don't want to go to my friends and go, oh my God, I had the funniest dream. You said crying and fired. I think you got fired. Like that's never a good conversation. So I said nothing. And a week later, I was in the office and the receptionist tried paging me and calling me, and I was busy, and she just emailed me, call me as soon as you can. And then when I did get around to calling her, she said, Cynthia was fired, and she was standing here crying. And I said to her, I'm like, I told her the story, and I said, I was afraid that it was you. I didn't want to say it to you because who wants to be the bearer of that news? You don't want it to happen, and you don't want to tell somebody. So yeah, it's I would say freaky. When it first happens, it's a bit freaky, but now it's just, okay, so is this going to happen? Like, I don't get negative. I don't get horrible, like bad things. I have really good boundaries. So I don't get anything horrific or bloody or anything like that. And it's interesting because I have a lot of friends who are mediums or psychics, and it's almost like everybody has boundaries of what they can take and deal with. And a friend of mine who's a medium, and she helps the police with cold cases, and she can feel what the victim's going through. And it doesn't bother her because like she's kind of like got a sci-fi like vibe to her. She's like, no, it's kind of cool. Like I'm helping him out and, I'm doing a good thing. And I'm like, that's positive, but I can't even watch a scary movie. So the fact that you could do this, kudos to you. So we all have boundaries of what we can accept and what we'll deal with. And our guardian angels will, just only accept things within our boundaries.
Right. And I don't even like, I couldn't even comprehend like to be able to feel like what a crime victim felt, and then just to be able to be compartmentalized like that. That'd be really hard to do. Especially with what she's doing with the cold case stuff.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for her. I could not do that. I mean, I don't like to see blood on my own person, like Nikki getting a paper cut. So anything of that nature. But we work with what we or within our field of acceptance. I mean, I had a client in Australia, and people always say to me, "Oh, do you need to do the readings in person? Can you do it online?" I'm like, "There's no limit in terms of distance." And with this client, I said to my guides, which I never said before, like, I want to feel what she's feeling, because I wanted to get a sense of what's going on with her before I start asking other questions. And the minute I said that, I had trouble breathing, shortness of breath. I started to feel like it was a panic attack. And, after I got that, I was like, okay, let's move on to something else. Like, what other things can I share with her? And when we got on Skype, I said to her, look, I have no medical expertise whatsoever. My medical background is basically Grey's Anatomy. That's the extent of my medical expertise. But that being said, this is what they gave me. And she said, I'm so gobsmacked that you said that. I've been feeling that way for 6 weeks. And I told her, I said, look, I have no medical background. So if they're giving it to me, they want you to go to a doctor. And, we went through the reading and everything. And, she emailed me a couple of weeks later. She was like, I did go to a doctor, and it was a panic attack. And, I have medication and everything, but thank you for that heads up. So.
Right. Once you realize you had the ability to do this stuff, did you figure out a way to hone it and practice it so that you're better able to do it?
Yes. It's like working out. It's a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. Like the way that I do it now is not the way I did it then. I had trouble concentrating, and I had to create a ritual for myself to force myself to focus. So I would burn incense or a white candle, and I would sit on the floor in a lotus position and just focus for at least a half hour to get enough information prior to getting on the phone. Now, it varies. Like I had one I'll ask people to tell me where they want to focus, because people will generally say, well, what do you get from me?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll give me something random but specific to you. And then other things, I have to ask questions myself. So I'll just say, give me the areas you want to focus on. I don't want you to say, well, is my marriage going to work? No.
Right.
Let's focus on your love life. You want to focus on that. So this one guy emailed me, and the last thing on the list was his love life. And before I'm about to get on the phone with him, I'm reading the list to kind of see what I can get. And I literally hear in my ear, like somebody just talking to me saying, he doesn't want to talk about that. I'm like, well, what does he want to talk about? His love life. Okay. What's like, literally, this is my conversation. I'm like, and his love life? He just broke up with somebody, but it's not over. I'm like, that's a bit cryptic.
Right.
You just broke up with somebody, but it's not over. But I don't like dealing with the elephant in the room. So I'm just going to gently rip it off so I don't feel so like weird. So the first thing when we got on the phone, I said, look, you just broke up with somebody, but it's not over. I mean, I know I even sounded like a question in my head.
Right.
He goes, yeah, we're still living together. I'm like, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. And even for the same guy, it's interesting because they'll give me whatever they want to give me, but they'll give me visuals. If somebody says, what about my wife? They'll show me what she'll look like so I can give you a description, or they'll give me coloring, like, oh, she has red hair or he has red hair. So they're showing me the coloring of the hair and the skin tone, but they're not giving me the sex. And I'm not sure if he's gay or straight. And I'm asking that question. And around that time, that movie was on FX, Gianni Versace, the Gianni Versace story. And they kept showing me Gianni Versace. When I said, well, is he gay or straight? It kept Gianni Versace. And I'm like, I know it's a good movie, but is he gay or straight? And it was like Gianni Versace. And I'm like, okay, I don't get what you're trying to say. So then we're talking. And at some point he goes, my partner. And I'm like, yes, you're gay. Because they keep showing me Gianni Versace. He goes, that was a good movie, right? I'm like, I know. So it's understanding how to interpret the information they give you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as I love, Gianni Versace, I would not just automatically say gay when I saw him. I'd be like, designer. Whatever.
Right. And because I've been trying to figure this out, like, they say, like, especially now, how lots of things are on a spectrum. So would you say somebody's gut instincts or intuition, that's on the spectrum of psychic abilities, like it's on the lower end? Because I used to play poker, and I would just have a feeling tell me bet or call the person or whatever, and just have that intuition to do it. Because that's one game you have to, if you have better intuition in poker, you're going to do better at that game. So
yeah, I do agree. I mean, your intuition is same thing. A lot of people don't listen to their inner voice, and I would say about 10% of the information that I give clients is basically things they already knew, but they didn't have the confidence to accept. Mm-hmm. So they need somebody outside of themselves to reaffirm it. So the fact that you were playing poker and you were using your inner guidance to like direct you on what to do just shows that you're actually listening to yourself and listening to your body and, paying attention to that. A lot of people don't do that. I was doing a reading with a guy in the UK, and we're talking, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, because sometimes my guides get louder if they feel like I'm not listening. They'll go up an octave, and I'm like, okay,
hey,
stop.
pay attention to us.
Truly. And I said, okay, wait a minute, you're writing a book. And he was like, yeah, I'm not writing a book. I'm like, no, you've written the book. You're repurposing the content. Yeah, but nobody's going to buy it. I'm like, no, they're telling me that you're going to do it. And yes, there's a market. The fact that he already thought about this, the idea, but then he kind of told himself nobody was going to buy it. So he kind of put it on pause, and they're just saying, no, it's a good idea. Move forward. He did, but it was just the fact that he knew this, but he didn't trust himself.
Yeah. It's I see it over and over again. Like with creative people too. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the fear of rejection
Mm-hmm.
is so strong in people that they stop themselves from doing anything in the first place. And
Very true.
yeah, it's really surprising. And the more I've talked to people, the more you realize, oh, everybody's got those feelings, but you have to figure out how to overcome those feelings of worrying about rejection or anything like that.
There's a meme that I've seen over and over again that it's so true. It literally it shows the person like close to the finish line, but then they gave up. And it was
Hmm.
literally like it was right there, but they didn't see it, and then, hence they gave up. But if they took a couple more steps, they would have achieved it. And it's like you were almost there, you know. And that's so true for so many people. I mean, I wish that more people would just leap before they look. In certain situations, not in everything,
Right,
but in certain situations, leap before they look because they're
right.
halfway there. Like they know they have the information and the confidence, well, not the confidence, but the information to go forward. But it's
Hmm.
just that level or lacking that level of confidence to push them.
I think that stops a lot of people from because you deal with the business community, um, that people that have the ability, but they're scared to make that leap of not working for somebody. That's probably something that's come up a lot with you as well.
Well, that's a thing that is, I mean, we're in a really dark period. But
Right.
the light that's coming out of this is a perfect opportunity for people to get introspective about the things that they want to do and dabble in as many pies as they possibly can to explore the things that catch their interest. 9 times out of 10, it's catching your interest. There's a reason for that. Like moving that, it's like riding down the road. You see like a great little stop sign and you want to just explore it. Just
Yeah.
go for it. You don't know where that road's going to take you. And that's the beauty about this. You may end up in a better place. And if you are in a position to do something on the side, do it. No need to like quit your job and try to make something work because no one loves a hungry entrepreneur. They
Right.
want to ensure that if they're working with you, it's not about the money.
Hmm.
It's about your desire to help them. You know, that's
Yeah.
one of the things somebody was asking me about, like, why do I work with entrepreneurs? I love being able to share with them what I see on the other side. So when
Hmm.
you're in social media or you're in your little head and you're seeing these people making 6 figures in a day and, oh my God, I've done nothing. You know, I want to be able to share with you what I see so you keep doing what you're doing. And you know that you're almost there. Like if I can tell you something that you didn't share with anybody, or it's something that you were hoping was going to materialize or wishing for, and it gives you the validation that, no, I'm not on the wrong road. I just need to
Hmm.
keep moving forward. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and that probably helps with, and I've read it in numerous books and heard it on many talks, and I practice it myself. So, and it's been working so far, but it probably helps them to have that visualization in their mind of what's possible. Because if you can't visualize what's possible, well, you're going to be stuck at whatever level you can visualize. So
Yeah.
if you can't ever visualize yourself being successful, your brain's not even going to work toward being successful because your brain's like, I can't even imagine that.
See, that's the most important thing, and you hit the nail on the head. When the book The Secret came out, everybody thought, "Oh, just put together a vision board or write it down and then sit, go watch TV. It's gonna come to fruition."
No, it
No,
takes work.
yeah, you know, I love that saying. God helps those who help themselves. You've got to kind of put in the work, and if you could at least see it, see
Mhm.
yourself. Like one of the things I remember when I was purchasing my home. I literally, this was just a random act. I had given up condo shopping. I was like, you know what, I'm not finding anything. But then I saw an open house and I'm like, I'll just check it out. And I was standing in the closet and I'm like, I saw my clothes in the closet.
Mhm.
Like I just saw my clothes in the closet. And during the mortgage process, it was Mercury was in retrograde. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I knew I saw my stuff in that closet. I know it's happening. It was just, I saw it. I knew it. It was the longest process, but it came to literally Mercury went out of retrograde and I got a closing date. So it's just being clear about what your vision is and just holding true to that.
Right, right. And um, I always, I'm always interested in people's journeys to get where they are. So when did you decide to write the book and start doing what you're doing now with your business? Was it just happen to listen to those voices yourself instead
it,
of telling other
it's funny.
people?
It's funny because when people say, am I doing the right thing or I'm in the wrong road? My journey was very skewed. I literally wanted to start a candle company or a gift company. I thought that would be something fun. I wanted to find a company in New York City that would teach you how to make homemade soaps or candles. In New York City, I could not find a company in all of New
Wow.
York City. But what I did find was a woman who was doing tarot card classes. No correlation whatsoever, but I figured, what the heck? Made no sense. Took the class with friends. It was fun. Didn't take it seriously. Everybody kept telling me I was amazing. I later realized I wasn't reading the tarot. I was listening to what they were saying. And
Right.
everything that I did took me back to this spirituality. I started designing jewelry, not thinking of this. And then I ended up doing an event where I ended up reading The Stranger. And that was just like, okay, I get it. Like, you literally are pushing me into this stuff. And I keep swerving away from it. And I was like, no, let's do this. Because at the end of the day, what I was doing with my clients was literally what I'm doing now. But I never said, oh, I'm psychic. When I said, no, I see you. No, honestly, I see you doing this. Yeah, no, I literally see you doing this. A friend of mine, it's funny because I get a lot of clients who have a gift and don't know what to do with it. So I kind of work with them on how to do this, how to just receive information. And the book was one of the things that I did because I felt like there's no psychics for dummies. Like, when I basically, I don't want to say came out of the spiritual closet, but when I did, I never saw people who looked like me. I love watching TV, and like the Long Island medium, who I love, she would walk by random people down the street and just say, oh, your mother is talking to me. I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Like, it was until I saw Tyler Henry on television. I don't know if you're familiar with him, the Hollywood medium.
Not offhand.
His mother would drive him to appointments. He was like, I don't know, he was like 18 or something. But you would see him in the car with a notebook, just focused on whoever he was going to meet and just writing down whatever information he receives. And that's me. Like, before I get on Skype or the phone or whatever, I just start focusing on the person's name. And then just seeing what they're going to give me. There was a radio interview that I did in Atlanta. And it was like Uncle Johnny was the DJ, and it was Charisse or something was the co-host. And I kept focusing on Uncle Johnny, but Charisse's name kept popping up. And I was like, okay, Uncle Johnny. And then Charisse's name kept popping up. And I kept doing this, and I kept doing the same thing. So it was supposed to be a 15-minute radio segment. It ended up being 45 minutes. Every time we cut to commercial, the producer was like, are you okay staying? We're really enjoying this conversation. I'm like, no problem. So we get back to the reading, and he's like, yeah, none of this is resonating with me. He was very polite about it. He was like, none of this is resonating, but you know what? We're going to go to commercial, and we're going to come back with Tanya. And he came back and he goes, have you ever done a reading for somebody and it doesn't resonate with the person you're reading, but the person next to him, it does? And I said, yeah, as I'm thinking of you, Charisse's name kept popping up. He goes, exactly, because she's sitting here freaking out, and she's been nodding every time you're talking. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's never boring.
yeah, the one that I remember from TV, because I used to watch her when I was younger all the time, was Sylvia Brown when she'd go on Montel Williams.
Yes.
And she because there are some people that like they don't seem genuine about it. They seem, they're trying to do different techniques, but she seemed like she was one of the ones that actually had a gift for it.
Yeah. It's funny. Speaking of, I did a reading last Sunday, and speaking of poker, it was a group reading via Zoom, and these gals had the best poker face. I'm literally like telling them stuff, and I'm waiting for like just a response, like, something positive or negative, even a nod of the head. I'm getting nothing. And at one point, one of the gals chimed in because I'd given her information of a relative that came over. And when I say that, when I sit down to do a reading, depending on the person, I will get an image of somebody who's showing up. The best way to describe this is Whoopi Goldberg in Ghosts. When in that movie, when she's doing, you see all these bodies around her. That's what I feel like all the bodies. And sometimes one of the spirits will identify themselves. Like one instance, one gal was like, my grandfather, did he come through? And I'm like, no, I'm not getting, wait. Okay, somebody just raised a fishing pole. She goes, oh, we went fishing every weekend. I'm like, okay. So in this instance, I was telling her about the gentleman that showed up, what he looked like, and even the car he was showing me to identify who he was, and cigars and pipes. That was the thing, because I was like, I'm not sure of his age because he showed me cigars, but also pipes. And I don't know anybody who smoked a pipe. Like that seems older generation.
Right.
So I didn't think anything of that because she didn't really appear responsive when I said that. And then about 15 minutes later, she goes, I texted my mom. That is my grandfather, her husband, not her father. And yeah, the car is exactly the one he had, and he did smoke those. And I was like, okay, thank you. Poker face. So
has there been anybody that has been really helped by stuff like that when you're able to help them with a loved one?
Both. They do get, it's hard because the stuff that comes out of it, I do get so many people who are just relieved and clear. Like one of my favorite stories happened on New Year's Eve. Like everybody was rushing to try to get a reading. And this one woman, we were meeting in person, and beautiful woman, but I've never seen anybody try to like shrink themselves. It was like she was so nervous. She had a hoodie on. It was almost like she was trying to hide, And I got information before we got there, and it was about her marriage. It was about infidelity. And that was the focus of, they were telling me what we're going to talk about. And again, I don't want to come out and just say, oh, there's cheating. I want to at least get that out of the way. Like, I don't want, it's like an elephant in the room. I want to gently share with what I was getting. And as I was telling her, like all of a sudden the hoodie came off, and she was like, yeah. And then, she started to lean forward and like whisper. And it was just, it changed the dynamic. Like it went from her being skittish, and then her feeling like, oh God, she knows exactly what the problem is, and felt comfortable about her decision. And she actually left me a beautiful email on New Year's Day saying that it gave her clarity and confidence. She thought that this was a waste of her time, and she felt so much better. And now she knows the decisions that she was going to make are good ones. And she feels better going into the new year. So this was the perfect thing for her to do. So it feels good to just help people. I mean, I know it sounds sappy, but I like helping people,
Right. And it's kind of funny to think that had you not just went and did that, the tarot card thing, you might not be doing what you're doing now. You might just have these voices and just not know.
Well, it just goes to show that what is in your purview, or what's coming up for you is coming up for you for a reason.
Right.
As opposed to me going, oh, let me keep looking for this other thing. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. Let me try it. And this just started me on that road, and I never looked at tarot as being something to make money on. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because the things that happened with that, I got hired randomly by a PR company to do an event.
Wow.
And I literally took it because it wasn't a money thing. It was okay, you know what? Everybody's telling me I'm good. These are strangers. I could test it out with these strangers. And it was funny because the first person I read I wasn't even looking at her. I was looking at the cards. And then after I was done, this was the person they were trying to promote through this press event.
Right.
And then the stuff that I told her, I was like, oh, because I was telling her about her work-life balance. She's concerned about leaving her kids and her husband. I had no idea that this woman had flew from California to New York to do this press event. And she's been doing this for how many weeks? And it was just like, oh. So even then I was like, it's what the cards say. I didn't realize this was in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of incredible, and it makes me wonder if, because they have all the, especially now it's come out, like there's so many other dimensions, more like 11 or something like that, and then some of them it's even more. It makes you wonder if everything, because time there's no arrow on it, so it makes me wonder if people that are psychic and all that kind of stuff can tap into what's going to happen in the timeline already, and there's really no changing it, and that free will is almost kind of an illusion because there's a set path that you're already on.
It is and it isn't. I mean, things can be a bit fluid, but they always end up at the destination. It's almost like, they're actually even giving me an example. Like, it's almost like with the love stories. If you're meant to be with someone, something could happen. You could be dating somebody else, and then something happens. If you're meant to be with that person, you will be with that person. It's almost when you're trying to fight your destiny, if you were specifically trying to fight against your destiny, only to realize I ended up in the place that I didn't want to be in, and it worked out.
Right.
Change your mind.
Right.
It's not so rigid in the respect that, do whatever you want to do. You're still going to end up here.
Right.
No, there is some free will in there, but
you have the free will to take whatever path you want to get, but you're still going to go where your destiny leads you, basically.
Well, it's interesting. If you believe in psychics and clairvoyance and spiritual world, if you also believe in past lives, and there's the thought process that we come into this life and we choose our parents, and we choose the lessons that we want to learn. It's a conversation that people have where the idea is it's literally like a banquet table of things that you want to achieve in this life or learn in this life. It's all about the lessons you want, and you are in the driver's seat. You're the one who chose from a soul level to experience these things, to learn these things and grow, in this lifetime. You didn't say you want it exactly like this. You just said the end result. Like, I want to learn how to love, or I want to be a better person, or I want to get empathy. Like, you pick those type of things, and then you end up here, reincarnated and doing this again in a different body.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating. Like, I've heard, oh man, I forget what it's called. I want to say it was called the egg or something like that. But it was this theory that somebody brought up that you're the universe experiencing itself, and you're going to live in each person's life. It's just one person, but you're going to live in each person's life. So it makes you go, okay, so if I'm treating somebody this way in this life, then when I come back, I'm going to have to experience that.
It's interesting. Are you familiar with Brian Weiss? He's a past life regressionist.
Maybe.
He was in the news. He was on Oprah. The whole idea behind him is he's a hypnotherapist, and he uses this hypnotherapy to help his clients with trauma. And normally in his practice, he would take you back to your childhood. Say you always had migraines, and he would try to determine where in your childhood did this happen. And by bringing somebody back to that portion, it's like identifying the problem, and the problem goes away. Like, you work your way through that problem. He had a client that was referred to him, and he put her through hypnotherapy, and he found her speaking a foreign language.
Mhm.
And when the lights came on, he took her out and he explained this to her. She was flabbergasted. She was like, I've never been to France. I don't speak French. So she allowed him to film her the next time. And she was just flummoxed. Like the
Right.
words that were coming out of her mouth, she had no idea. He realized that he not only regressed her to an earlier time, but an earlier lifetime. And he
Wow.
documented this whole thing. And it was the reason for his book, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Mhm.
And I actually went to his past life regression workshop in New York, not thinking I'm going to have a regression. I thought, you know what? I like his books. They're New York Times bestsellers. He's a great writer. He's a great orator. If nothing else, I'm going to enjoy listening to him for a few hours and go home. I had 3 past life regressions, one after another. And it was amazing to see because you literally see who that person is and you see their life, like almost like a quick synopsis of what their life entailed. And it was at that workshop that I ended up reading a stranger, because he said, okay, we're going to do tachometry, which is the idea of doing a reading off of an object. And he
Mhm.
said, pick somebody you didn't come with, give them an object, like something on your person. I think I gave the woman my wallet. I really didn't care. And she gave me a necklace. And the minute she gave me the necklace, I heard her mother. It was literally like somebody whispered in my ear. And meanwhile, at that point, I'm a skeptic. I think it's
Mhm.
healthy to have a certain level of skepticism. And I'm thinking, she's a woman. Of course, she's going to give me a necklace. And of course, the necklace is going to be her mother's. Common sense in my mind. So at this point, my eyes are closed and I see her on the beach as a child. I just met her. How do I know what she looks like as a child? But I knew inherently that this image that I was seeing was her as a child on the beach. And then a dog came into the picture. It was a Labrador retriever. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm projecting this dog. I love dogs. I had a Labrador. I had that dog as a child. I'm like, maybe I'm projecting it. And the
Mhm.
dog in the image came up to my face and licked it and said, I'm real. That freaked me out. So
Right.
at this
Right.
point, the lights go on and he says, okay, give the items back to the person and just share with them what you received. And at this point, I'm just like, I give up. I'm just gonna, no judgment. I'm just gonna share and let the, the chips fall where they may. And as I'm speaking, with every word, she's crumbling. That was my mother's necklace. She died 5 years ago of cancer. The dog's name is such and such. That's the beach we went to every summer. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, well, what is this? And she's sitting there like, what other information can you give me?
Right.
And that was basically the tipping point, because I was like, okay, this is real. Like, there's no way I could have made this stuff up. And the way I received it. And since then, I just basically took the training wheels off and said, let's just do this. And it changes dramatically with every client. Like the way I
Right.
receive it. I remember there was at one point I was doing free readings. Well, the first month I was just doing free readings to figure this out. And after that, there was so much attention. People were like, oh, are you doing more? And I said, okay, you know what? Why don't we do pay as you go? Which, for those listening, this is not a good business model, because somebody's going to insult you by offering you a low price. But at that point, I wasn't even thinking. I was like, oh, people aren't going to do that. And this woman was like, oh, I don't have any money. Okay, so why are we talking? And at some point, I'm literally in my office. It's the heat of the summer. I have a sweater on because the air conditioning is full blast. And my arm started to burn me. And I'm like, why is my arm burning me? She's going to burn you, is the word I heard, what I heard. And a couple seconds later, I heard, I found 20. Can we do it? And I said, you know what, let's just do it so I can move the negative energy away. Like, I'm just going to do a reading for you, but I want to just move this away and never to come back to this again. But it was amazing for me to realize, oh, I get physical sensations. I didn't know that prior to this moment. So yeah, it
Wow.
grows and changes, you know?
That's it's kind of interesting because I'm so fascinated because I have ADD, so my brain works differently than everybody else's
Mm-hmm.
already. So I'm always interested in hearing how other people's work. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like a little interesting puzzle to me. Um, who would you say has taught you the most so far, as far as your abilities go? Is there anybody that's kind of helped mentor you along?
I'm actually no. I mean, it's interesting because the best way to just do this is just do it. Like as we were talking about, like not finding excuses, just rip the Band-Aid off. You know, it's funny. There's a certain level of fear with this. Like every
Hmm.
time I do it, because I never know if they're going to show up. I never know what I'm going to get. I don't have a script, so I'm just, it's like going to a show and being a performer and going, I don't know what we're going to see,
Right.
so it's getting used to and accepting the fears and the anxiety because it's going to, I think if I don't have it, then I'm not going to do anything good. Like there's going to be
Hmm.
nothing good coming out of this if I feel overconfident and, cocky, but it's just using it and seeing what happens because and I trust that they're going to show up, and they do.
Right.
There was
Right.
one last weekend. It's like it's funny because every reading is not going to be amazing.
Right.
Just because not everybody's life is amazing. Some people's lives are
Mhm.
more amazing than others. And you could have an amazing reading, and then the next reading is just blah. And I had one that was just blah. Like there was nothing exciting or amazing that made me go, oh, this was fun. This is good. They got stuff out of it, but I'm looking for like major stuff. And then I was concerned about the next one. I'm like, okay, you guys, you got to give me something. Like this was not that great for me. Let's give. And it's funny when people book, I get like an image of who they are.
Mhm.
And I had a group reading, and it was like 4 little circles. And as I looked at it, it was like, oh, okay, so there's the wedding. She's in education. Ooh, she's got money coming towards her. And it was just like they were just sharing with me, no, it's going to be better. It was going to be better.
Mhm.
And they literally opened up with one of the gal's weddings.
Right.
Now, she's not engaged yet. This is something down the road, but they opened up with showing me her wedding. She's on a veranda, even showed me the jazz band. She had like an amazing jazz band. So it's interesting because it was like we went from like a boring, reading to, oh, this one's really good, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Has there been any of them yelling at you about me since we've been talking?
No, actually, they've been quiet and watching.
That's good. That's good then. That means nobody's got to tell me anything. I'm all good. That's what I like to hear. Because I'm always wondering how how do you deal with um, different personalities that you talk to? Like, is there?
For the readings or for
Yeah.
the
Do you
for
do
my
you do
spirit
you do
guide?
you Well, do you get like warnings sometimes from some of the voices about what the people are like before you do a reading?
They actually will block. Like there was literally a interview I had the other day, and I was getting antsy about it just because I get nerves.
Right.
And I got so antsy that it ended up being canceled. So they do they do protect and block you,
Right.
and I have to, and I also think with my clients that come in, it's almost like I don't want to say they're choosing, but they're choosy on who they're allowing in or who
Hmm.
they're, letting me work with. Because I have to say, I have some amazing people. I've only done one reading that I just didn't like because it was just the person was just shrouded in negativity.
Hmm.
And regardless of what I said, it wasn't enough. Like they literally wanted me to write the book on their life. And matter of fact, that the review was, you could have told me more. I know you were holding back. And it was just like literally, it doesn't do me any good to hold back because it's what am I
Right.
doing with this information?
Right.
It's not like money. I'm not a miser holding on to it. So yeah, it just
And
now.
that positivity and negativity, I've talked to people before, and having a positive mindset changes the way that I've taken in information.
Hmm.
And so I'm sure people being positive or negative affects how you're able to do what you're doing.
I I veer on the positive like 99.9%. I mean, I
Mhm.
just think that that's a better way to go, just period. You know, I
Right.
like being happy. I come into any reading or any situation with that energy. And it's funny because if you're upbeat and smiling, it's hard for somebody to be negative towards you.
Right.
You
Right.
can't like be like annoyed at somebody because they're smiling. It's like really.
Well, unless there's something really wrong with you, then I guess you could be annoyed with that. But
There's that, yeah.
um, yeah. Uh, how long have you been how long have you been doing this?
Oh, God, it's like what, 10 years?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
it's funny because it's like you forget because I love working with people. You forget how long you're doing something.
Right. And it's probably something is it's also something that you love doing too.
You know,
So
it's funny. I had a record week of just doing readings, and today I was like, I am so mentally exhausted. Oh, great! I have another client for this weekend. I'm like, you know.
right.
So I literally could do this all day long, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
I have, and I
Right.
still enjoy it. So, and that's the thing, like with clients that I work with clients who want to start their business, and we focus on what their gifts are, you know, period, and what they're good at to kind of put together something that's not reinventing the wheel for them. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I'm like, as long as you're passionate about it, and if it's something you could do all day long, like if you wanted to teach people how to play poker and you
Right.
really enjoy playing poker, that's not a job for you. That's a
Right.
passion. And for you to
Right.
make money off doing it, the energy is going to come across. So people are
Yeah.
going to want to work with you. So, and
Right.
if you're doing that all day long, you might as well love it. Not as
Yeah.
opposed to doing something because so and so is doing it and they're making a killing. So that's the business model that I'm going to adopt.
Right.
No.
No, I enjoy talking to people and interviewing people and this is the shoot second season. You're probably like the 45th person I've talked to,
Cool.
and it's been really unique the different life experiences that I've come across. Has there been any of those people that you've talked to where you help them visualize it and then like years later they can take a picture and send it to you and be like, yeah, here's that corner office that you said I was going to have one day.
Yeah. The gal that I was talking about in Australia
Hmm.
who had the panic attack, like, because the thing is, I will share with you what I see, but also I will give you steps on how to keep your momentum going. The thing that I
Okay.
always felt that I'd never liked if I went to a workshop or anything that was just motivational, you come out rah rah and then you go home and you slouch
Yep.
and you lose that momentum. And I'm like, if I'm telling you something that I see and you may not visualize it, you're leaning on my vision.
Hmm.
I want to give you steps to keep you activated, keep you engaged. So
Right.
you're still moving towards that. And yeah,
Right.
this person, exactly that. I told her what I saw. I told her what I felt she should do to just keep that momentum going, to keep herself engaged in that energy. And she did that. And prior to COVID, she was literally traveling the world doing a travel and food blog and
That's
very
awesome.
successful with it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I hope to be myself doing this one day. Um, maybe on TV or something and just do a huge thing out of it. And one of the person, Shauna Craft, she's like, I don't know how to ask my question. So you'll have to figure it out, Shauna. How to
Mhm.
ask. Um, has there been anybody that like you've seen like in person
Mhm.
or in a magazine or whatever and just been able to just have a reading on them?
Well, you know, it's interesting because before Joe Biden put himself in the running, I saw a woman in the office, but I didn't see her. I didn't see which position she was in.
Hmm.
So when and even as we were going through the electoral process, and they had all those women, I was just like, I didn't see what she looked like. But then when he got the nomination and he picked Kamala, I'm like, oh. Now, bear in mind, this is something I'm so emotionally connected to. So I'm like, that's something I would never bet on. Like
Right.
because that's the bad thing. When you're a psychic or clairvoyant or whatever, your ego has to be out of it. So if you're
Right.
emotionally attached to the outcome, that could sway the answer.
Okay.
And that's the reason why a lot of psychics get stuff like that wrong. Because, they're Republican and the Democrat's going to be in, and they don't want to say Democrat. They want to say Republican, and vice versa. So it's like, no, your ego can't be involved in this. And that's goes one of the reasons why I say I love clients who I don't know. And 99% of my clients are strangers until we talk.
Right. And then you're not anymore, for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
And if you guys want to get a reading, I have the link in the description for the website and all that stuff. And so if you can't formulate a question here, you can always do that later and get a hold of her that way as well. What is one common thing that you see in all your clients that you think by now you could just tell as a general thing to everybody, something that they can do to get over the fear of just not starting?
It's just lack of confidence, a lack of belief in themselves. They could have, and this is across the board. I'll share with you one example just for context. I had a client who, looked a bit morose, and I'm kind of going through what I saw, and I'm like, you wrote a book. Wait, the book is literally been purchased. It's going to be a movie. And I was trying to see in my head, like I can't see which studio bought it. I know a studio purchased it, but I'm not saying which studio yet, but I know it's a movie. And we were going on, and everything I was saying, she was like, yeah, I'm in New York. I just sold my book and I'm pitching another book. And I'm like, no, the book is going to be bought. She goes, yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to work out. And the movie, yeah, we have a distribution deal with a movie studio. It's going to be made. And I'm like, why do you seem so down? Like literally everything that you're telling me, anybody else would be rah, rah. You have a book deal. You're shopping a new book. You've got a movie deal associated with this book. And I said to her, I'm like, after this, you literally need to get a bottle of wine or champagne and toast yourself. You literally have achieved a lot. She's like, yeah, it's okay. But so many people are not their own cheerleaders. And to have somebody who's done all these amazing things and achieved all these goals and doesn't see its own value. People don't see their own value. Sometimes they need somebody else to tell them, but at the end of the day, you should be your own cheerleader.
Yeah. And that's another one that always happens on here that I tell people about is perspective. If you don't have perspective on your own achievements, if you don't go look at what I've achieved, then you're never going to be satisfied, because you'll have that same feeling when you achieve the next thing. It's whatever.
The worst thing you can do is to just diminish your accomplishments, because it's basically saying to the universe, yeah, that wasn't great. I don't want that. As opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm grateful for this. That was great. I'd love to have more of that. Showing gratitude just kind of opens the door for you to getting more of the same.
Yeah. And that's something that's, the whole gratitude thing. If you look in the Bible, that's what the Bible is all about. Thanking God for what he can provide. And so it's funny that the themes are so common in life that once you can pick up the keys, it becomes a whole lot easier.
Yep. It's like, now you know the rules, go play.
Yep. And then take your path to your destination, wherever that's going to be.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun talking with you today.
So did
Um,
I.
and I put a link in there for people to go check you out. And everybody that's been here in chat, thank you very much. Shauna Craft and Papa Drew and Van Vita Travels. Everybody that's been in here today, Construction Cronies, he was in here too.
Oh, cool.
And Nursing Our Travel Bug. Yeah, I just want to thank all you guys for coming in. And stick with me for a minute. But guys, till tomorrow, stop waiting for life to happen and make life happen. Later, guys.